I'm Ashton Addison from BlockWest Capital for Investment Pitch Media and the CryptoCoin Show. And today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Katherine and Johanna, founder of MEXC Pioneer and of the Metathon the Metaverse Alliance. I would love to kick it off, Katherine, if you could talk a little bit about what is MEXC Pioneer and what are the initiatives that you're driving into the blockchain space to start?
Actually, people used to know about MEXC is more likely as a centralized exchange, right? Mainly in the secondary for spot trade in South Asia. But we have decided this year to make one step a little bit further in order to bring more benefits into the industry, not just being a simple exchange existing here. So we have funded MEXC Pioneer Foundation in order to give all the necessary tools to the enterprises, developer teams with great potential, great product in order to turn their dream into reality. No matter what kind of project it is and no matter what kind of circumstances or status it is on, as long as we see the potential, we'll be more than happy to help them out.
I know that you're working with different projects. There's different use case industries that are hotter than others right now. Can you talk a little bit about, Katherine, how it's been going so far? Are you focused on a specific industry? Is there anything specific for startups that you really like that works well, starting to use Pioneer as a launchpad?
Before, we're more likely operating like a centralized exchange. Our work, it will be like more involved towards traditional operation towards a centralized exchange, which would be charging fee, helping listing, giving them PR right before listing happens. Centralized exchanges do not really make enough contribution to the industry. For all centralized exchanges, we're facing one issue that somebody point a finger on you says you're great, but somebody puts a finger on you says you're horrible. That's the major reason why we established, Pioneer. As for Pioneer, it actually established, I would say, in June this year. Before that, we have already started, the entire operation. So with the portfolio so far, what we have done is we have actually helped and deeply involved ourselves in more than 100 projects so far. The latest listed project, Colony, will be the most recent one. And the first project we actually work with Solana will be RDM. With Polygon, it will be QuickSwap. And with Avalanche, there are a lot of, Avalanche outcomes lately. So all those projects actually reach out to us or we're in touch with them at different stage. Not all of them are at very early stage. I can say that we're the first centralized exchange that made that step out to support the public chain ecosystem, which can be tracked back in 2019 December, firstly with Solana. That's why we really appreciate the friendship between Solana and MEXC side, even till today, that they're giving us a lot of good sourcing and deal flows. And when it comes down to startup companies, what I do care about the most, I will kind of give you 3 points, bullet points. Number one, the path they're on. And number two, I think, which will be very important, which will be the team. Personally, I really prefer teams with dedication. Most importantly, be responsible for taking the project in a longer term. Last thing, I think, which would be very important, we'll look at the potential. For Pioneers, and we're not just looking at a specific product from one team. We're actually looking at the technology building ability from developer team. They might fail on this current one, but the next one, they can do much better. So this is the most important aspects that we will look into.
I know that we have Metathon with us as well, and I would like to dive into that industry a little bit. And if you could talk about how close you guys are looking at GameFi and Metaverses and how Metathon and the Metaverse Alliance fits into Pioneer.
Actually, when it comes down to GameFi and Metaverse, I do think those two things are separate, but I do also think those two things can be combined. A type of project that can cross through the bull and the bear. For the ups and downs that we have been through the past years, I think everybody has been, I know so many people that got so rich, during one bull run, and when the bear hits, they lose everything. But with GameFi being existed, what I have observed so far, no matter how bad the market is, people, it's always a fan of playing games. Even for crypto people, like me, myself, I'm super busy all the time. I have 40 calls every day, probably. I still manage to spare probably a couple, 30 minutes or a couple hours to get on my phone and play around. And the young generation spends, I believe, more than 50% of the time, especially in South Asia. The play to earn has gone way too high. And as for Metaverse, things gonna come down to NFT, right? I do think if ever the bear is gonna hit, GameFi and Metaverse will carry along the volume, the liquidity, and also bring the new blood into the industry. Actually, with the Metathon this round, I think my major dedication and KPI, which would be focused on the portfolios that has participated, in the hackathon. Very early stage team with a great product to also test out the market. It can be summed up into 2 bullet points. Number 1, to discover early stage portfolio, and number 2, to have our portfolio's product being tested out by the market. So I think those 2 major things will be the most important thing that we're concentrating on as for this time Metathon. And I believe this will be the first time. It would never be the last time. So because with Johanna itself, we're going to run a couple probably twice every year with Pioneers, and we probably would target different topic or different path.
And so basically we're helping to onboard all the different aspects in this whole industry, including the venture capitals and also the top tier ones of public chains, for example, the Binance Smart Chains and also Polygon, Solana, to onboard to participate all together. So I think it's a good time for us to slow down a little bit and to try to clear how does this market look like in maybe a long term or in next coming quarters.